Let's get this recording so we can put it out for people. All right. So when you're ready, we're ready.
Okay. Okay. So let me share my screen. Hold on. Okay. They can see the.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep, we can see it.
Oh, okay. So, what is a state diagrams? The state diagrams show various states that exist within a process in the application in response to any event. For example, we have a message received, time exited, or any errors in the application, along with the response and action. They also show which event can change the state of the object in the class. State and transition usually contain events, action, and activities. Um, when I see this, it's look like a flow chart, but it's not the same. Flow chart illustrate a process that are executed in the system that change the state of an object. The state diagram shows the actual change in the state, uh, not the process or commands that creating those changes. So it's better to use state diagram if you want to focus on how the system can go into different state in response to various events. The state diagrams are used to describe the behavior of the system, represent the different state that class can get, how to represent it, a different stage in its life. Also, it's a way to characterize a change in the system. This means that the object that composes it modified its status in response to event and time. What is the element that composes the state diagrams? Um, the first one, this one is the initial state. This shows the starting point or first activity in the flow, denoted by a solid circle. This is also called a pseudo state, where the state has no variables describing in the footer and no activities. The next one is the state. The state represent it represent the state of object and instant of time. In a state diagram, there will be a multiple symbols, one for each state of the object that we are discussing. We use a rounder rectangle to represent the state. Other one is the history state. It used to remember the previous state of a state machine when it was interrupted. This shown in the state diagram with the help of a letter H enclosed in a circle. The other elements is the transition. An arrow indicate uh, the object to transition from one state to other. The actual trigger event and action causing the transition are written beside the arrow, separate by a slash. Transition that occur because the state completed an activity are called triggerless, triggerless transition. Other one is the alt choices. When we wanna have a multiple option for the transition, we uh, we have this diamond symbol that indicate a dynamic condition with potential branches result. Other one is the exit point, the point in which an object escape the component state or state machine, which indicate by a circle with an X. The exit point is generally used if the process is not completed, but have to be escaped by some error or any problem. More elements, we have this one is called a fork, where a single transition split into multiple transition using this rounder solid rectangular bar to represent a fork notation with incoming arrow from the parent state and outgoing arrow to the new created states. The other one is the join, where the current transition reduced back to 1. We use the same run solid rectangle bar and to represent the join with the arrows. Another elements, this is the self transition. These are loops starting and terminating in the same state. So yeah, this represents a self transition. And we have this final state. The end of the state diagram is shown by a bold I symbol, also called a final state. A final state is another sample of a pseudo state because it doesn't have any variable or action described. There is a lot of different elements. I think I take that I see the diagram the most used this element, but there is a lot more. Here's an example of a state diagram for online order. So here is the initial state, the transition, and all described with what this happened and this. I have another samples. Oh, here I want to show the part of the state diagram, and the event is an instant that can use the transition from one state to another of an object, and these events can be conditions that take the value of the true, usually describe a Boolean expression. This is called the event change. Receiving a split signal from one object to another is a signal event. Receiving a call to operation is called this call event. Passing a certain period of time after entering the current state, or a certain time and date. This is time event. So this is arrow. These are cause the event to one state to another. The action is executes a result of is centennial of a state transition. A state transition label can be expressed as the following format. This one here. For example, event action, event condition action, and entry and exit action. So like this one here. And the states, state identify condition in the life or any where it's met some condition. execute some activity or expect an event to happen. An object remains in a state for a limited time. A state is represented by a rectangle with a round edge and three internal division. The three division contain the name of the state, the characteristic value of the attribute of the object in that state, and the action performing in that state. In some diagrams, many diagrams, the two lowers they're not using. So what is the advantage to use the state diagrams? One of those is it allowed to the analysis to focus on the need of the user. The state diagram is useful and in interactive system, since it express the intention that the user had when he's using the system. And disadvantage are the inclusion of this relationship make the diagram more difficult to read, especially for the clients or the people that are not familiar with this. It's a little bit hard. And here I have one sample that we use the most of the element. Yeah, here's the initial state. We have the state here. Sorry, we have the split here. The split the two different states. Here's the fork where we have one state and we take it to a state. And well, finally is the final state. So yeah, I use a lot of web page with the samples, like this one we have here, and yeah, those samples that I showed are really easier to understand, but there's another one that are really hard to understand. I know, well, on our project, I think we need to use these state diagrams, and yeah, we can see with this diagram how what's gonna happen on the application. So what happened if something failed? What's gonna be the response for that? And yeah. So yeah, that was my presentation. I don't know if you have any question for me.
No questions, Ronald. Thanks. That was really good. So it sounds like basically what he wants us to do is do a state diagram and probably a bunch of other diagrams just to get the practice of it for all our for the project, I guess. So we're going to do several different kinds of diagrams.
For our own project, we just need to do one state one for basic.
Yeah.
So I took I used the same scenario that I used for my use case diagram and document to make my state diagram.
Cool.
But I found that when I was making the state diagram, it can get complicated really fast.
Yeah.
Because and I started, I could show you mine, but you might go, holy cow, what happened? Because I'm thinking this looks really laid out straight, and then as I'm starting to say, oh, well, and mine has a lot of forks because they could. I was following a user thing where they could add a note to a scripture. I was kind of taking like from the gospel library, thinking that if you're inside of the scripture app, that part of it, reading the scriptures, you have options to things you do, and I was just following that you could make a note. And that note extends from the scripture reading because you don't have to make one, but it's something that's there and optional. And so by the time it was If they click to make a note, then once they read a note, they could edit the note, save the note. So by the time I'm like walking through, it's kicking me back to saying once it's gone to the database to save, then it has to come back in here. And I started getting lots of lines circling back through as different processes. And I thought, this is starting to look really complicated.
Yeah. These are, they're just going to get complicated, I can tell.
Well, and even squeezing in like the events and getting them to all fit in the right place where you can flow. Because sometimes my arrows were going a little more like slanted to meet up because they were forking and giving options and off of this and off of that. And as I'm trying to fit in a little text box to say this is the event that triggered this, or this is the event, it was starting to fill up. It didn't look as neat and organized as this. I mean, it is, and you can totally see the flow, but I thought, mine doesn't look this simple.
Right. Yeah.
But thanks, Ronald. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed using several of those same. I think I used Draw.io. I mean, I used Vizzidine or whatever, Paradient, whatever it's called, because that's what I had downloaded on my own machine. But I was using a lot of these places that showed what each of the symbols are and when to use them and why.
Yeah, those are good. And Draw.io is great. I've used it in the past. It's really good for these kind of diagrams.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys ready for sequence diagrams?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I'll keep this one really short because it's about 10 o'clock here. It's getting pretty late, but so anyways, I'm going to be talking about sequence diagrams. I wish I could promise you these ones. I would say they can be simpler than state diagrams, but they can also get way more complicated. I'm going to keep it simple tonight. So what sequence diagrams are good for? I feel like they're good for showing step-by-step interaction between different parts of the program or system and the user. They're really great at showing expected results. You can use them to show like how to handle errors or multiple options or different kind of inputs, kind of like you can with state diagrams as well. I would say really the real difference I feel like is instead of, I mean, the symbols you're going to use are different in sequence diagrams, and you're going to mark up, I think, a little bit more of what's going on in the system there, more from the program side than what the user would see. So let me just show you an example and go over it. It's really hard to tell, but this is a stick figure here. And that's going to be our user. And I'm just doing a quick URL request and then the program. So for example, in my program, it would prompt the user, it would prompt the user for a URL. The user would input the website URL, and then the program will take that and send a request to that website for the web page information, and then the website will respond back with the information of the website, though in specific, and I didn't go into specifics here, but in specific, my program asked for like the first 7 headers if the website even has that many, and it takes that data, it gets that data from the website, and then it just puts it on the screen. So that's just really simple how this sequence diagram works, but you can get the idea is you go from one step saying what each thing is asking for. You can expand this out. I could have added like a section about like a database where it has to go pull information from the database, get it back to the web server or whatever, and then
right. Or if you needed to log in or something, you could put that in as well.
Right. You could log that in, like if correct credentials are entered, you go through. If not, reprompt the user, and like you could make this really as complicated as you want. I just wanted to keep it really simple,
right?
To get the idea across.
I was doing some reading, and the only thing that seemed to confuse me is when they would send out, like when it talks about the program sends a request to the website, so now it's pointing that it's going to the website. It
Mhm.
then would show like little squares or rectangles, somehow showing like a space of time, and they would be different widths right along this, like the little lifelines coming down. And I'm thinking, how do we know how long or big those should be?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Because I mean, and that's one of those things. I wouldn't worry too much about how long or short they should be,
Okay.
at least my opinion, because right, it's the idea is that you want to communicate that there's going to be a pause, but
Right.
even from like any kind of developer standpoint, I mean, there are so many factors that play into how long it takes for that information, right,
Right.
to play to the user. So
Okay.
I don't worry about that too much.
Well, I
I
hadn't
don't,
planned to worry. I just thought, okay, if I'm supposed to have known that, I don't know that. Like,
right. Yeah, I guess I've seen that in a few examples, and honestly, I don't. From my experience in reading sequence diagrams, I don't see the huge benefit of that.
well, I don't
Like,
either. That's what I thought. I thought each place is going to be different or processing differently and how you wrote it. I mean, it's hard to, I don't know. I just thought it was hard to know. I thought it was very subjective, I guess would be a better word.
yeah, I agree with that. I feel like it's very subjective, and for me personally, my subjectivity is like if if I have to go through an extra step to explain something that would make perfect sense without it, why include it?
Okay.
But yeah. Um, any other questions?
No.
No, have you, the only thing I saw also in those sequence diagrams, like
Hmm.
on top, I guess it depends on what program you're using. Some used circles up there
Right.
instead of the squares, but then I noticed that some had a line going down and some had them, the line around the circle is going up. Do you know? And maybe I just haven't realized or read, I missed what each one was pointing.
Yeah, I haven't seen any with circles, so maybe I need to do some more digging. I've always seen them with these squares, and usually the line goes down, and that line is just saying any arrow that hits that line is
Right. I know this is
indirect.
the lifeline, but like up at the top, so where your square is,
Yeah.
for where it says proposed, that would be a circle, and then it may have a line underneath it separate
Hmm.
from the lifeline going down, like a horizontal line. And then as you're going across to the website or like to a database, that one would be a circle, but now the line would be horizontal going the other direction.
Interesting.
And somehow I was thinking it must be the way it's receiving or storing versus I don't know. But yours don't have it. You're just clearly showing the states of the different players
Yeah.
or, operations it's going through.
Yeah, I'll admit I haven't seen any of those. Now you're making me curious. Like I want to do some more digging, but yeah, I don't. I imagine it's probably something similar to like maybe a state diagram combination where you're mixing a sequence and state diagram. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But,
Like I said that, and so I was starting to build one, and maybe it's because it's in visual paradigm. That's what theirs look like. I don't
oh.
know. I just know that I saw several, even the examples where it shows like templates, and I'm thinking, okay,
Mhm.
will I know or will it know which one to use? Because I don't know what I'm supposed to do with those.
Oh, that is a good question. Oh, you know what it probably is? You know how you talked about there's those like sections where there's supposed to be a delay?
Hmm.
Um, I wonder if that little bubble just is like that circle is like indicating maybe there's a delay, or in some cases maybe they do use the circle in place of the rectangles.
Right.
Not sure.
Well, if
Um,
you stop sharing your screen, I can
yeah,
show you an example real quick.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead and show us.
Okay.
Be cool.
So like here's, yeah, let's say yes before I open it up. Okay.
There we go. Okay.
So
Yeah.
but here I can definitely see this says database, but see how there's this line? So the lifeline's going down, but then on this particular one, it's sideways.
And I think that's just to show that it's like the circles are I want to say more like objects per se, whereas the database is more like a collection
Okay.
of objects. I think that's what it's trying to communicate. That would be my guess.
Right. So this one's by Lucid Chart or whatever. So I was just reading, and like I
Okay.
said, this is showing if a patient checks in, the doctor would perform a checkup and give feedback. He may prescribe medicine or prescribe a
Mhm.
test, and then there's feedback. And then
Mhm.
when the patient goes to the test, that's what's showing here. And then these are supposed to be showing lines and lengths of what that test might take, and then it
Right.
records the report. Then he reviews the report with the doctor, and they update any information to the patient's database, the file. And then it could still prescribe medicine, prescribe an operation, and then if they went to an operation, that would be here to undergo and perform the operation by the doctor.
That's really interesting. Because, yeah, the funny thing was I was using Lucid Charts for making mine, and I didn't see these examples. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I was just curious because I could see that it was saying, you know, these are your objects or the things you're interacting with. And I get that this is telling what we're doing in between and kind of what's happening, but I couldn't figure out why some were straight, some were sideways.
The only thing I can think of, and maybe it's just because this is the only example, it looks like, honestly, these circles pretty much are all being used in the place of squares. And the only reason I can think of that one being sideways is to communicate that it's different than all the other ones because it's a collection of
Okay.
objects, you know, being a database versus the other ones, which are
Okay.
just objects there.
Yeah. See, and then like the ATM, sideways,
Yeah.
database here, straight.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, now I'm really confused.
Yeah, I know. That's why I thought I'll wait and see what happens. That's why I went at like by afternoon when I started to build, I thought I'll just hold and turn this one in this week and hope that when we came to class or whatever, it might be.
You know, I think that just has to do with their template of using the circles. I would
Okay.
just go with squares and you don't worry about the lines.
Yeah, well, and I could totally do that as well. I just was curious because,
Yeah.
I mean, Lucid Chart is one that, again, is just really free online, easy to use most of the time.
Yeah.
And just thought, okay, I don't know why sometimes they have this going sideways. And like this one, they're showing the control. See, in this one, I thought, oh, they're showing more of an MVC kind of a
Mhm.
pattern because like control, they have this one with an arrow.
Mhm.
And then
Right.
this time the database is down and the ATM is and so, yeah, I was just curious if maybe you guys had seen what I just listed.
Yeah, no, I haven't. So yeah, now I'm even more confused.
Well, that wasn't my intent. I just know when I was reading and, you know, trying to see if I could get it done, I thought, I guess
No
I
worries.
missed something in the reading. I don't know what this is. Maybe I'll just wait.
Yeah, yeah, I'll definitely have to read up on that. I don't have an answer for you right now.
No worries. It was a great presentation. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Oh, do you guys want to see, sorry, my sources here? I should probably show that.
Sure.
Or real quick, I'll just share my desktop screen again. And those are my sources. I just watched a couple of videos about it, and then I used Lucid Charts for making mine. But you can use Dryo or whatever to make them.
Ronald, did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any question now.
Perfect.
No, yeah.
All righty.
All right. Well, I will make sure to get this posted up. And stuff. And then
Awesome.
I think next week we were just a review, but I had mentioned, and maybe we'll just want to email or write on the board. Ronald, I was mentioning before you got in there that we probably have to circle back around and have someone teach. I didn't know if any of us hadn't at least taught two or whatever and make up for where Rob, was it state? What was it? Which one did we end up not doing? Or
Wasn't stage or sequence. Let's see. Hold up.
Oh, I think it's the system test.
Oh, system test.
Because
Yeah,
I think it was the
that-
week I did J unit, and I think they were supposed to. I think Robert was supposed to be doing.
A system level test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was not a super hard one either. But I was thinking there. I think we have to turn in a thing. How well did we follow our schedule? And it'd be easy to say, hey, someone in our group dropped, and we end up having to pick that up on our review day, and we
Mhm.
covered it then. But we probably want to make some kind of plan for that.
Yeah, we should. It's a great question. I think obviously everyone here that's here tonight taught twice. I don't know about, let's see, I'm pretty sure Mason's gone twice, right?
Yeah, Mason went after I did collections, and he did whatever was after that, and then he did servlets.
Okay, yeah. And then Giovanni, I think he's,
And I thought he did twice.
I think so.
I was trying to see if I could pull up our file or whatever for group and just see if we see everybody's names.
Yeah.
File. Group plan. Oh, we had, Giovanni usually went with the week with Robert, and then Tyden and Ronald, Gary, Mason, Melissa. Yeah, it's like Giovanni and Tyden did it the week before you guys. So I think everybody's gone twice. So it's probably my turn. I'll just plan to make sure we have something next week.
Okay.
I've already done that one, so it's not a big deal.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa.
No worries. Good luck with all you guys' stuff.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and have a good night, and good luck, Melissa, on getting your assignment in.
I know I got an hour and a half. I've
Okay.
never pushed one this late ever. I'm sure it'll be done. And it'll be good.
Will be. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Good night, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.